Welcome to DC. You know we're out at the USA Cup. You're taking it slightly, I'm taking it slightly. Now how you throw apple, you gon' be right back. Well, we gon' be right here, we gon' be right here. We ain't going nowhere. Welcome to DC. DC, the home of Chuck Brown. Oh, you don't know the sound? Well, let me break it down. The G.O.
All right, this is the Big Douglas Show. It is a preview Friday. And for that, our special guest today is Nicki Jhabvala from the Washington Post. Nicki, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Very good. Thanks for doing this with us today. I know you're a busy lady this time of year.
Yeah.
On Twitter, it's all football. I noticed, though, on Instagram, it is all two big doggies that you have. How old are those things, and what are their names?
Yeah, I got one that's 3.5. He's Joey. And the other one's still kind of a baby. He's 8 months old. That's Louie. So.
And they're Labradoodles, right?
Golden Doodles.
Golden Doodles.
Yeah. Yeah. They're my big guys. They're about 65 pounds.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. My cousin just got a little puppy.
Oh, nice.
Little puppy is an exaggeration. The thing's already 40 or 50 pounds.
Oh, goodness.
So on away games like this, when do you typically head to Buffalo? You're heading to Buffalo, I assume.
Yeah, I'll go out tomorrow morning. And then I come back super early Monday. So.
And you're flying, I assume.
Yes.
Some people don't like to fly. I know it's not a short ride. It's not a super long ride on a train, I'd assume, but I figured it was probably.
Yeah, for like Philly, I'll drive. That's easy. New York, I just take a train up. Pittsburgh, we drove last year.
Have you been to Orchard Park yet?
I have. Well, I went there when I was covering the Broncos a few years ago. So it's a nice stadium. I like Buffalo. It's a nice town.
Yeah, I've heard that the stadium experience there is one of the better ones in the league. As far as, I guess the stadium is sunk down in the ground a little bit. They were telling us on Wednesday.
Is it? Oh, I didn't hear that. The view from the press box is really good. It's kind of over the end zone, but it's a nice stadium. They've done a nice job with the facility around it. The team practices there. So, it's one of the nicer ones. It's kind of feels like it's out in the middle of nowhere because it's, pretty far removed from the city, but, FedEx Field is the same way. So.
What the injury report's pretty small this week. It'll just be Ioannidis by the time we get to Sunday, right?
Yeah, he's the only one on the injury list. Antonio Gibson is good to go, but yeah, Ioannidis is dealing with that knee injury. He was hurt in the last game, and he didn't practice one day this week. Was limited for a couple others. And today's practice report, which is more of an estimation because it's not a full practice, he would have been DNP. So Ron said he experienced some tightness in his knee, so he's questionable.
I'm curious about Kyle Allen. There really was no, competition there for the backup spot. Is he not ready to go? Is he not actually fully healthy?
No, yeah, he's fully active. He's the number 2 on game days. He underwent ankle surgery after that pretty serious injury last season. Had kind of a setback in training camp, but has been full go in practices and everything has been fine. So he's the number 2 on game days. Kyle Shermer is typically, they didn't call him up last week off the practice squad. He's still getting used to the system and everything. So we'll see if they elevate him, but he's technically the emergency quarterback on the roster.
And still only 52 men on the roster, right? And interesting that they've not picked up, as Ron said, why they've decided not to add a player to the practice squad to the 53 man.
He said they feel comfortable with where they're at, but they got 2 players who are pretty close to returning off IR. Derek Forrest, who's probably the closest, he's doing really well after dealing with a hamstring injury. I would imagine he starts practicing next week and they activate him pretty quickly. I guess they want to see him get going in practice first just to see how the hamstring responds. But he's probably the farthest along. And so you keep a roster spot open for him. You don't have to cut somebody else. But they also have Curtis Samuel. So after Buffalo is when both are eligible to return to practice. And from there, they have 3 weeks where, you know, you can practice them, see how they do, see how their body responds, and you can either activate them at that point or leave them on IR. Now they can wait a little bit longer with Curtis too, but as soon as you designate them for return, you got a 3-week window and you have to either activate them at that point or leave them down for the rest of the year. So.
And do you think he's getting close? I mean, I'm sure they're excited to have him back on the field, but I know they do. I know they have said that they don't want to push him, because of the injury.
Yeah, we only get to see a few minutes of practice, so in that limited time, you know, we've seen him run not full speed, I don't think, but certainly closer to full speed than we've seen in the past. So it looks like he's making progress, but for a guy like that whose job is, you know, based on his speed and his agility, you know, this is a very, very tough injury. You know, and there's always the risk you bring him back too early and he's going to be dealing with it all season. You know, so I think they're still trying to work through some of that stuff, but they made it seem when they put him on IR that he wasn't too far off, that they just wanted to give him some makeup time because he was on the COVID list in camp and, you know, didn't get a lot of reps then, but we'll see. It's a tough injury.
Have the players started saying or commenting to you, or I think you mentioned COVID. It's interesting with the COVID, like Antonio Brown is going to miss a game, it looks like, even though they've got 100% vaccination rate. Are the players frustrated that they're missing time, even though they've gotten vaccinated?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that Curtis was vaccinated when he was on the COVID list. There are different protocols for guys who are vaccinated versus unvaccinated. Those who are not, you're out like 10 days. If you are fully vaccinated and you don't have symptoms, you can test negative 2 days in a row and you can be back. So it's not a given that you'll miss time, which is why there's that incentive for guys to get vaccinated is, you know, if there is a breakthrough positive test, you can come back much quicker. So it's a risk for everybody. And I think, you know, the teams with more players that are fully vaccinated certainly have the advantage because of the protocols, but also, you know, just the risk for everybody else. So, you know, the Washington football team, they've been fortunate. They haven't had too many guys on the list. They had a handful at the start of training camp, you know, and most of them were close contacts, meaning they didn't test positive, but they were in a close vicinity. So out of precaution, the league held them out for a bit. So hopefully it stays that way.
It appeared Taylor Heineke, I mean, had a good game Thursday. He stayed in the pocket a lot more. I don't know if that was from the design from the defense, or was that, you think that was more like the coaching staff saying, hey, don't forget this is your shot here. Yeah. And, you know, it hadn't been your ability, it's been your availability. A concerted effort to stay in the pocket last week?
I think probably both. Part of it is scheme, part of it is opponent, taking what the defense has given you. But yeah, I think he has to be smarter about it, and he is being smarter about it. You know, because he's not that guy who can just step in, you know, just fill in for a game or two. He is the guy for the foreseeable future. I mean, Fitzpatrick is expected to be out for 6 to 8 weeks, maybe longer. So they need him. And Kyle Allen, he hasn't been able to stay healthy any more than Taylor Heineke has. So there's a lot at stake here for him, for the team. So yeah, I think it has been made clear to him that he's got to be smart with, you know, the risks he takes. A lot of his teammates love the fact that he's really willing to dive on the pylon for a touchdown and kind of put his body on the line, you know, but they also recognize that, you know, we need you to actually be out there. So don't do anything too dumb.
No targets for McKissick in game one at all. Then he saw a bigger workload in week 2. Gibson has yet to go over 100 yards rushing in a game this year. What is the plan on offense? Is that a work? I mean, also no Cam Sims. I've been stunned that Cam Sims isn't getting more work. what is the plan on offense? Is it still a work in progress? What are we doing here?
Yeah, I think it still is a work in progress, especially as they kind of deal with the quarterback rotation. And they're still figuring guys out. Cam Sims, yeah, I've been a little bit surprised by that, especially after, leading up to the game, everybody was saying, oh, he's one of our most reliable guys. And, Fitzpatrick saying he's one of my favorite receivers. And so, I mean, Ron did say this week that they do need to get him more involved, but I think that's kind of you go in with a game plan and you take what the defense gives you. And if you need to adjust, you adjust. And sometimes that means that, certain players don't get as many touches, but I do think they want to get him more involved. I think we saw the adjustment from week 1 to week 2 with getting Terry involved more early against the Giants. I never understood why that's not an automatic. I mean, there are times when you face a really good defense and they're going to just double him and he got problems, but he should be a focal point of the offense, no doubt. And I think they have an advantage because they have such a dynamic group of players. They have guys that can play virtually multiple spots, really. I mean, you got receivers who, you got running backs who are receivers, you got tight ends who are quarterbacks. I mean, you got guys who can do multiple things, and that's huge for Scott Turner, and just kind of finding a way to capitalize on all their skill sets is the goal moving forward, I think.
It feels like they finally have found a punt returner in DeAndre Carter. It has been a long time around here since we had one to get excited about. Is he just the punt returner because he's the best we got, or is the staff really excited about his potential?
No, I think they really are excited about him. And he's kind of been like an under the radar story, and nobody's really talking about it because, the quarterback issue has been so big, and, the defensive issues have surprised a number of people, but he's really been a consistent guy back there. And that's why honestly, that's why he's on this roster. They wanted a veteran back there. They could have just made, Dax Milne, Jarrett Patterson, one of those guys as a returner, but they wanted a veteran, somebody who they knew they could rely on to catch the ball, but also give him a good field position. And he's done that. I think he's in, last I checked, he was, among the top 2-3 in return. So, he's doing a good job. As long as you don't turn it over, that's the biggest thing. Just catch the ball. Just catch the ball,
That's right. It's interesting. They kept 4 tight ends. I had speculated that they must have thought that Sammis Reyes wouldn't have cleared waivers. Are they actively stashing him on the 53? It sounds odd to stash somebody on the 53, but that's it, right? They didn't think he'd clear waivers. Yeah,
and he wouldn't have. The interest in him was so high after his combine. I mean, he's a freak. I mean, you look at it, there's like not an ounce of fat on the guy. He's an athletic marvel, really. But he's so new to the game. He's green. He's green as a football player. He's a hell of an athlete, but he's green as a football player. So I think they just want to give him more time. I think it's probably going to be a while before he sees the field, unless there's, a number of injuries at the position. But they definitely want to keep him. They do see a big future for him once he gets acclimated to the game, the position, everything. I mean, this is different than Logan Thomas, obviously, because Logan Thomas, he's a quarterback. He knew the game probably better than anybody on the roster. He just was new to the position. But Sammis is new all the way. I think he's only been doing this a year, really. So yeah, it's pretty remarkable when you think about it, how a basketball player can change everything and make it at the highest level. I mean, you got to be some kind of athlete. So yeah, he could be down a bit.
It's interesting. They let Morgan Moses go because of their belief in Cosme, threw him into the fire right away. It's been pretty good, really good run blocking. Pass blocking needs to catch up. It's interesting to me that they have not done the same with Jamin Davis. They're slowly bringing him along. Has the staff said why they felt okay with one spot and not the other? Because fans are clamoring for more Jamin Davis, of course, and less Bostic. So curious as to their reasoning behind that.
Yeah, I think they view Sam Cosme as, I don't want to say farther along, but he had a really good training camp. He really made significant progress, and I think it helped him going against Montez Sweat and Chase Young. I mean, how could it not, right? So, he came into it pretty strong. They knew there'd be some bumps. Everything's different when the bullets are live. But they feel like he can make up ground. He's just got to clean up some of the technique stuff, like some of the bad habits he had from college. And in the first game, a lot of those habits resurfaced. So if he can keep those under check, he'll have a shot. He's a good player. Jamin, it's a little bit different because he is a heck of an athlete. But there's so much responsibility with his role as a quarterback of the defense, that it's a lot to process for anybody, but especially a rookie. And you can kind of see the wheels spinning in his head when he gets out there. The week 2, he looked a little bit more comfortable. Week 1 was not great. He's got run over on one play and just pushed down like a kid in like the freshman in high school just getting pushed down. So yeah, he's making progress, but that could take some time. I feel like that defense is still a work in progress,
Well, let's talk about it real quickly. Is 26 out on the field because of his contract?
I would think so. Yeah. It
Because
hasn't been great.
It would feel like Curl is not on the field nearly enough.
Yeah. I do wonder if the problems persist there with Landon Collins, at what point do you have to bench him? Because once you bench him, there's no going back,
Correct.
And I do wonder if they're keeping him on the field to try to produce, improve any sort of trade value if he has it, because the dead money becomes a little bit more palatable after half the season is over. But I don't know that. I mean, he doesn't have any guaranteed money over the next few years, so it's not a bad contract for another team to take on. But I don't know that any team would want to give up assets to acquire him. So, yeah, I think they're trying to get through this year. But if it continues, there might come a point where just move him to linebacker. Just make him a linebacker already. Like, he's not a cover guy. He never was.
No, he's not. They brought William Jackson in to be more diverse. They played man only 23% of the snaps, I think, last time.
Mm-hmm.
Are they forcing a round peg into a square hole here, or is it just going to take some time for Jackson to get used to the scheme?
Yeah, I think it's going to take some time. I kind of figured there'd be some adjustment there. But luckily for him, he's not going the other way around, going from zone to learning how to be a press man corner. And we saw that with Josh Norman. That's tough. He's already got the natural skills of a corner, skills that you can't necessarily teach. I mean, being a press man corner is difficult. So it's more of, learning the scheme, getting comfortable with the guys around him. And I think that's a lot of what the issue is for the defense as a whole, is you got a lot of returning players, but they've made some tweaks here and there, and you got new guys in the secondary. You got a rookie at the mic. I think they're all trying to get adjusted. So I think they'll figure it out, hopefully before it's not too late and they're, 4 games back in the first part of the season, because they're going to have some challenges coming up soon with these quarterbacks.
The schedule does not get any easier.
No, they got a brutal schedule.
Brutal. We wrap each Friday with a little over-under. So I put the number for passing yards at 299 over-under.
I'm going to take the under, but not by much. I just think with this Bills defense, they might have to rely more on the ground game.
So defense is really good. And this is one of those games where they're going to have to keep up, right? I mean, scoring 20 is not going to work this Sunday, right? No,
you got to put numbers up and don't turn over the ball.
Yeah. I mentioned before that the running back has not gotten over 100 yards. Let's put that number at 99.
I'll take the over. I'm feeling optimistic. Let's see if you get one.
Need a big game from him.
Or, what if Garrett Patterson he finally gets time, and wouldn't that be a story?
That'd be great. Because he went to school up there too, right?
Yeah.
Sure, right. Let's see. We still haven't seen a breakout game from Logan Thomas. Let's put his number at 75.
Under, but just slightly. I think he could have a big game. Their linebackers are tough, though. Tremaine Edmonds is tough. So that's where my skepticism. Yeah.
Let's see. They are waiting desperately for Chase Young to get a sack. Let's put the number at 0.5.
I'm going to take the over. And then I think he's going to go on a run. Sacks come in bunches. I think he's due for that, that Bengals game last year. I feel like that's coming pretty soon for him. It could be this game.
You wrote a really good article about that and talked to Von Miller. I know you covered the Broncos. He says when they start chipping, you take that as a compliment. Yeah,
they're game planning for you. You're a focal point. They view you as a problem, So, but yeah, he still gets chipped all the time, Vaughn. When him and DeMarcus were together, and that's the beauty of having two elite edge rushers in my mind is, especially with the interior that they have too with John Allen and Daron Payne. You can double up on one guy, but you got three others. So, you're going to benefit some way.
John looks more explosive this year.
John?
Yeah.
No, he's been really good. Yeah.
More explosive than last year.
He's had a great start. He looks more comfortable out there in the scheme. I think it also helps if there's more attention on the edges, gives the interior more opportunity. But, I think that could, vice versa, could work too. You want to see Chase has made an impact on the passing game, but I think he expects more. It's not always about sacks, but you want to see probably more disruption than what he's produced.
Does it look, and one last one here, does it look like Fuller has lost a step, or are they asking him to do more this year and he's getting used to the new role he has?
I don't think he's lost a step. I think he's getting adjusted to the new guys around him. Landon was only there for part of the season. Bobby McCain knew. William Jackson knew. So, each year he's been here since he resigned, he's had a new group around him. And that takes time. And he's the guy that can do everything. They had him mostly outside last year. This year he's more in the slot. And that's why they love him. He's versatile. But I think it's going to take adjustment for everybody. They just got to get the communication down and get to the point where they don't need to communicate. They just know where they're supposed to be and they can kind of feed off each other. Maybe that could take a few weeks. That could take them up till the bye before they feel that. But they got talent back there. So
score prediction.
Oof. I'm going with 27-24 Buffalo. I think it'll be close, but I'm giving Buffalo the edge because they're at home. And with that defense and Josh Allen, it's going to be tough.
It's incredible the amount of coaching experience between the two sidelines in the history together. It really should be a fun battle of guys that have been football lifers.
Yep.
Nicki, we really appreciate your time today at Nicki Jhabvala on Twitter, and catch all of her work at the Washington Post. Busy lady, we appreciate your time.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.